there were two squads working together. They were sent out as an advance recon for a movement that was going to be made into a particular valley where there was a stronghold of Taliban insurgents. Um, in order to do their reconnaissance, they had to climb a mountain that was about 10,000 feet high. They started at a forward base that was about 7,000 feet and began climbing. So it took an entire day to get to the top of the mountain. Upon getting to the top, they set up in a position on a plateau on the side of the mountain where they could see the Taliban insurgents in basically their fortress there. But at that point, with the temperature and the climb they had made, they were running out of supplies, especially water and food. So they called back for a drop of supplies and gave the helicopter the information, the coordinates as to where to drop it. And there's a very strict protocol with that because you want it dropped somewhere where the enemy can't see it and see the drop, which was on the other side of the ridge. They were on one side of the ridge down in the valley with the Taliban, so they had the drop set up on the other side of the ridge. Unfortunately, the supplies were dropped almost on top of them and were seen by the Taliban in the valley. They could actually see the Taliban looking through high-powered binoculars at their position, so they knew they were in trouble. They knew they would be attacked. At that point, my son, who was squad leader of the recon, and a Sergeant Cunningham, who was the sergeant in charge of a second squad that was with them. He was in charge of a sniper squad. They had to decide what to do. They had two options. They could pack up and move down the mountain, or they could stay and fight. The idea of going down the mountain was quickly dismissed because they would have had the Taliban above them shooting down on them, and it would have been a very, very bad position. So they decided to hold their position and fight and call in support. And at that time, the enemy was able to get up the mountain, and a force of over 60, it's estimated that over 60 Taliban insurgents opened fire on them, immediately killing one of the forward snipers. Sergeant Liebert was killed right away, but wounding a couple of others were down and wounded. Jared and the rest of the squads found positions of relative safety behind rocks, but the enemy was flanking them on both sides. So my son, immediately called in for air support and artillery support. He was able to reach out and grab one of the soldiers that had been shot in the back and the wrist and pull him to safety because he wasn't far away. But there was another soldier that was hit with an RPG, and he had lost an arm and was bleeding badly and was in rough shape. So Jared and Sergeant Cunningham said, "I'm going to go out and get him." His name was Bradbury, Private Bradbury. And Jared told Cunningham that he couldn't go out to get him because the boys needed him more, that he would go out and get him. So Jared, the downed soldier was about 3 meters away, about 10 feet. Jared went out to get him and got close, but the firepower from the Taliban was so heavy that they drove him back to his position of safety. He waited a little bit, tried again. This time he got up and just took a step or two when the heavy fire drove him back again. He didn't give up because he was never a kid that would. And He reached in, he gave orders to the rest of the soldiers to direct their fire, to cover fire for him. He grabbed a hand grenade and threw it, and then got up and tried to get Private Bradbury. Unfortunately, the hand grenade did not explode. Could have saved his life, I don't know. And after taking just 1 or 2 steps, he was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade and killed. It was not a minute later that the artillery and air support came in and pretty much killed most of the Taliban that were there. Certainly a sizable number, and drove them off. So had he waited 30 seconds, he'd probably still be with me today.